Gaming, the epitome of this generation. When you think of gaming, you probably think of overweight, sweaty 30-year-olds living in their mother's basements. It is much more the direct opposite of this. People wanted to fulfill their dreams by playing their favorite video games. Thus, esports was born.
So I got involved with esports when I was probably I think it was my sophomore year in high school. I hurt my shoulder really bad in football, and I had two shoulder surgeries on it, and the doctor said that I couldn't play football anymore. So I decided to I've always liked video games, so I decided to take it seriously. And at first I tried to compete, and that didn't really work out. So then I found my niche with managing and stuff like that. It's just taken off ever since. And I almost consider it a full-time job now. I probably put in 30 hours a week. Some weeks, it depends on the week though. Some weeks are busier than others, but it's definitely a huge part of my life because this is something that I love to do. I love the passion of the fans and stuff like that, and I want to make sure that Circa has the best product out there to make sure that we can do our part to grow esports as a whole.
Esports are driving the gaming community to new heights and are sweeping this generation away. But what exactly are they? Esports are the new digital sports for a modern digital era. Every month, the average esports viewer will watch about 40 hours of professionals playing their corresponding game. Annually, there are over 385 billion people that watch esports. In fact, at the Counter-Strike Global Offensive E-League Boston Major, the grand finals match pulled in over 1 million concurrent viewers. For esports, there are no limits for what games are played, from first-person shooters like Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Call of Duty, all the way to card games such as Gwent and Hearthstone. These games pull major viewership and participation.
My name is Christopher Duarte, and I'm the captain of the team. I've been in the esports scene since 2008. I've been competing in online tournaments and LAN events up until this day. I've been with CompLexity on and off throughout the last 2 years, but luckily in 2018 they looked to field the COD team, and they still had a lot of faith in me as a player and as a captain. So they decided to make me captain and help me field the team with their assets.
For the Dallas Cowboys, a very large investment has taken place. They have acquired one of the longest-standing esports organizations known as CompLexity Gaming. CEO of CompLexity Gaming, Jason Lake, founded the organization in 2003.
Out of high school, I went and got a business degree at Iowa State. Was fortunate enough to graduate first in my class. I got a degree in finance. Then it was off to law school down in Atlanta at Emory University, and after law school I opened up my own real estate firm. So when I started my esports team, I was already a practicing attorney in real estate, and about the end of the 90s that was a really good place to be. It was quite lucrative, and that actually catapulted my ability to be able to create CompLexity. We were one of the very first teams to be incorporated and to start salarying and paying players a reasonable amount to actually play the video games. So I personally funded the first few years of operations, and amounted to probably over $500,000, which for a young attorney recently married was a significant investment, but I've always been very bullish on the future of esports, so I was happy to do it. I grew up an avid gamer back in the days of the Atari 2600 and, ColecoVision and the NES system. Here in Frisco, we have a great museum. It's a national video game museum. They have all these old, pieces of equipment. So I go over there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So I grew up in that world. I grew up at the dawn and the birth of video gaming, but I was also an avid athlete. My family is very athletic. My dad was a baseball coach. I loved football, grew up in the gym, and really thrived on that competition.
Swayze pulls it off!
But after high school, I had scholarship offers, but I really wanted to focus on my grades and kind of move on to the academic side of my life. So, I had to set sports aside, but I always had that passion and always had that competitive fire. So once I discovered Counter-Strike, I was actually in a friend's apartment. We were getting ready to go out for the night. It's like a Friday night, and he's sitting at his computer and he's playing this game. So the gamer in me is like, whoa, what's this? What's going on? And he's like, this game's called Counter-Strike. And he went on to explain to me that he was playing against different people all over the country over the internet. At the time, the internet was still kind of a fledgling idea. Like, I knew what it was. I'd sent some emails and things, but it really wasn't ubiquitous at all. So I was fascinated with the idea. So I started studying it and came to find out that there was teams and they ran plays, and this was before coaches, but they would attend events and play for prize money, and a light bulb just went on. I'm like, this is it. It's like my dream scenario. This is competition and video games mixed. And I really felt it was a digital sport for a digital future. DSL was coming out, and the internet was really coming of age, and it was very apparent to me early on that my loves for video gaming and my loves for competition that was born primarily from traditional sports had found the perfect intersection, and it was off to the esports world. The whole story behind how CompLexity ended up here on this awesome stage of the Dallas Cowboys, are you kidding me? Maybe it'll be a book someday. I guess the semi-long version is, over the years, we'd been kind of riding the waves of esports history. And we were always an organization that was bootstrapped. In common parlance, that means we ate what we killed. We could only afford the gamers that our sponsors paid for, or that other forms of revenue paid for. About two and a half years ago, there started what became a tsunami and a flood of investor capital coming into esports. So teams I was competing against that were traditionally bootstrapped and competing for sponsorship dollars and paying the players with those sponsorship dollars are now getting all this money, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars. Some teams were taking more investment capital than their budget would be for like 2 or 3 years. And what happened is this is driving up the cost of players exponentially. So if a Counter-Strike player was making $1,500 a month, 2.5 years ago, he might be making $15,000 a month today. And that's largely due to the influx of investor cash. So as you can imagine, being an old-fashioned bootstrap organization, that was pretty hard to keep players. We've always prided ourselves on being able to find players, identify players, and develop those players. But what that was leading us to become was a farm team. We would find good players, we'd start to develop them, but once they got good, we could no longer afford them because investor-funded teams would come in and offer them 5 times the salary. And who's going to turn that down? So about 1.5 years ago, it became my primary mission to find the right corporate partner for us, whether that was a venture capital firm, whether that was a family office, whether that was a sports firm, to inject capital to be able to maintain our operations and do what we do best. We do esports best. So that journey was kind of a long one. I looked at multiple options, had dozens and dozens of meetings with investors and venture capital firms, and met all kinds of super intriguing owners of sports teams that I never would have met any other way. It's been a pretty crazy adventure sitting around the table with some of these people that, I'm like, wow, I'm way in over my head here. But it was also a lot of fun because I think life is an adventure, and it was fun meeting all those people. There's 2 kind of philosophies in the esports world right now, if you really want to boil down this influx of investor cash. So one philosophy is bring in like venture capital and build up your company as big as you can, and then you will sell it, which is what's called the end game. Hopefully you've increased your valuation of your company a great deal, and you make a great deal of money in the process. The second kind of theory is going straight to the end game, which is what we did, because we're working now with a sensational partner in the Jones family, in the Goff family. And obviously our goal is not to build this thing up and get a huge valuation and sell it to somebody else. So if that makes sense, we went straight to the end game. And I did that very much on purpose, because when the opportunity arose to work with the Jones and Goff families, and obviously much of the Cowboys organization, I knew that I wanted to go straight to the end game. Because when you're looking a few years down the road, I have a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. and I look at the lives of people that work for me and where our corporate family is, the opportunity to work with one of the strongest brands in all global sports was an absolute no-brainer. So the first time I came out here was in June, and I took Travis Goff and John Goff to an esports event at the Verizon Center down in Arlington. Mr. Goff immediately got it. Travis Goff was the one who had set this meeting up, because back in the old days when I mentioned Counter-Strike, circa 2004, 2005, 2006, Travis Goff was an avid Counter-Strike player. And after that, he went to college, got married, and kind of grew up or whatnot, and is running his dad's investment office and family office. So he saw esports kind of coming of age. He instantly became kind of interested in working with a team, and saw the old CompLexity and the old Jason Lake and the Red Tie still kicking around. So he's like, hey, come on down, let's meet with my dad. And that's kind of how this relationship got sparked. The second time I came out to Dallas was quite interesting. They put me up in a very nice hotel downtown that the Goff family actually owns. And then I was fortunate enough to be picked up by Mr. Jones's helicopter and flown out to Frisco. And we land out back here on the football field and walk in through the doors, and there's all this security, and I'm whisked up in this elevator to the corporate level where, very shortly thereafter I met Stephen Jones, and then Charlotte Jones, and then Jerry Jones Jr., and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this even happening? Somebody pinch me. There's that old phrase, pinch me, I think I'm dreaming, but I literally was like, is this even real? I'm flying around in helicopters on the executive level of the Dallas Cowboys organization. How can this be happening? So it was immediately a match made in heaven for me. I really, really like all the people involved in the group, even beyond the glamour and the glitz of the Cowboys brand. These are some really good people. They share long-term visions for building businesses, which is important to me. They're not a quick pump and dump, get the valuation up and then send it out the back door. We want to build this company for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years down the road. And I was sitting here waiting while you guys are doing mic checks and lighting checks, and I saw this, and this was the first Cowboys game I went to at AT&T Stadium after we started having this conversation. And when you start building dreams and you really start thinking, I'm going to build this company, I'm going to pour my life and the life of my family into this project, and then I'm going to get a whole bunch of other people, I'm going to get them passionate about it, and we're just going to grind it out. Even if we don't make a lot of money, we're just going to go after it, we're going to go after it. What would be my dream? What would be my end game? What's the best case scenario for making this happen? Well, come on. Our logo was in the Star Game Day edition of the Philadelphia Eagles, November 19, 2017. If this isn't kind of a dream of all dreams, I don't know what is. And I'm still riding on cloud 9, pardon the pun, and really, really thrilled to be here and really honored to be working alongside both these organizations. It's going to galvanize it. I've said this in previous interviews. I think there's a lot of mutually beneficial reasons that professional sports organizations from traditional sports need to be partnering with esports organizations. Because like I said in 2003, these are digital sports for a digital future. It's now more obvious than ever that we're in that digital future. My car drives itself. We walk around with these supercomputers in our phones and we can see each other's face from anywhere around the world. It's like we're living in Star Trek. And the numbers for esports are staggering. 600 million active viewers predicted in the next couple of years here, which is bigger than the NFL. So what esports brings to traditional sports is fast forward to the future. We bring a modern entertainment product and competitive activity that transcends linear television, that lives and is born and bred on the internet, which is things that traditional sports are kind of struggling with. So we bring diversification in the internet generation, and we speak directly to millennials, which is a great investment for people that understand competition. Now, obviously, in my mind at least, it's smart for groups like mine and esports groups to partner with groups like the Cowboys and other groups that have come in from the professional sports side, because they don't just have 1 or 2 years of marketing competitive activity, or creating content around a competitive activity, or recruiting players. I mean, they've been doing it for decades. Like, there's no one better, in my opinion, than American sports organizations at running competitive entertainment products. The leagues have been growing out for decades. They've learned from their mistakes. In many of the places, esports are still very nascent and very weak. The traditional sports companies and organizations and executives and front offices bring a wealth of experience. So I'm very bullish on the partnerships. They're not always going to be easy. We have different philosophies across different kinds of business, and some of the marriages might even fail. But I think corporate marriages in general between esports teams and organizations and traditional sports groups are a big win-win for both parties.
CompLexity was founded by Jason Lake in 2003. Over the years, he has expanded the brand into one of the leading esports organizations in the world. Now that the Dallas Cowboys have acquired the organization, they share their headquarters with the Cowboys at the Star in Frisco, Texas. This allows the players and staff from CompLexity to have access to amenities and professionals that are unheard of in the esports world.
I have been in the esports scene as a competitor for about 5-6 years now. Being with the Cowboys would help us grow as a team just for the simple fact that, I don't know, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. So just for the simple fact that we're underneath them, a part of like everything that they're involved in this in is insane to me. It's not as mind-blowing as to my teammates because none of them watch football, but to me, it's insane.
The Cowboys are a huge brand, not only in football, but just in the world. And they have a ton of fans and stuff like that. So, and they have a lot of resources. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without them. So, with CompLexity and the Cowboys together, I think it's going to be, really good for our team and really good for the brand as a whole.
As a competitor, I've been competing for about 4 years now. Being with the Cowboys is a great advantage. They have a lot to offer. They have a lot to help us with. We can go to boot camps. We eat better. We have the ability to have sports psychologists to help with our team. There's a lot of dynamic that they bring that a lot of other teams aren't able to have.
Oh, it's pretty exciting. My players are already so excited to eat at the training table, which sounds like such a silly thing, but like to eat alongside like the front office and the players of the Dallas Cowboys and know that nutritionists are planning out your meals is like next level stuff. We're going to have access to sports psychologists, medical facilities, and all the things that professional athletes would have. Our gamers are going to have. They're going to have complimentary gym access, full health insurance and benefits. And in many ways, we're really leveling up all of our operations, from player treatment to content production to managerial sophistication, and it's a really fun time.
As for the future of esports, it has been revolutionized. From the small competitions they once were to now the gigantic million-dollar tournaments, it is constantly evolving.
Over the years, we've had lots and lots of different titles come through. We're one of America's most legendary esports brands, to be honest with you. This year will be our 15th anniversary, and 15 years in esports is like 150 in anything else. So we're definitely an old school brand, and we're very proud of our heritage and our history. Counter-Strike was the game that got us up and running. We've had everything from Day of Defeat to Call of Duty to StarCraft to Hearthstone and lots of different games. Right now we have a very good Dota team. We have a good Counter-Strike team that we're developing. We have a very strong presence in Hearthstone and Gwent. Those are card games. We're about to announce actually that we're going back into Call of Duty, so hopefully this comes out after we announce that. And we're going to be adding other games. We're looking at Rocket League, looking at PUBG, Battlegrounds, and expanding into other titles. We're always keeping our eyes on League of Legends. It's a huge game, wonderful fan base. And Overwatch, of course, is just launching very soon here as of filming, and so we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on that game as well. Like I said earlier, I'm living the dream that I've had for many years. We're centralizing all of our operations here in the Frisco, Texas area. Currently, we're building out our temporary offices where players can come and train, where managers can come and have workspace, and we can all be in one place. For years, over 15 years now, We've been running this business over phone and Skype and on a lot of airplanes. For the first time ever, we're really going to be completely centralized with all our operations, and that's super exciting. We're going to be focusing a great deal on our content, producing more compelling content for the young fan base that wants to follow after us. Obviously going to be bolstering all of our squads to get better and more compelling and entertaining and competitive players in all of our divisions. We're going to be adding divisions so we can market to a more diversified global gaming fan base. We're going to be doing a lot of expansion, a lot of growth, and right now we're actually in the process of designing and having architects and designers build out our world-class headquarters. That's going to be here at the Star in Frisco. We're going to have technology that no other groups have as far as eye tracking and training and taping what the players are doing for post-match analysis. We're going to be bringing in coaches and analysts and really running this esports company in a manner very similar to how the Dallas Cowboys themselves would run. We are here to learn from them, and whenever they let me, I like sitting in the back of the room being a little fly on the wall because I want to see how some of the very best in the business have made the Cowboys so successful, and I want to learn and humbly adopt what they're doing and add an esports twist to make us more successful in the future. So it's an incredibly exciting time in our history. Everybody, frankly, is working 12 to 15 hours, 7 days a week to get everything going as soon as possible, and we're all super happy to be here. Oh, good gracious. 15 years of memory. You know, I have poured everything I've had for 15 years into this company, and so has my family, my wife, and my corporate family. You know, Kyle, Andrew, Scott, Matt, and a bunch of other people. Jason Bass, my partner, who actually left the company during this transaction. And there were just countless days where you're like, man, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna survive? Like, how do we make payroll? Like, what am I doing with my life? You know, I should have stayed a lawyer and drove a nice car and just taken the easy path. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of great moments on the field, a lot of trophies, a lot of last-second comebacks and thrilling wins. But the win that defined CompLexity is our most recent win, and that is the day we signed the papers to partner with the Jones and the Goffs. It wasn't the same victory as holding a trophy or that last-second, Hail Mary touchdown pass type of situation. It was a culmination of a dream, the fulfillment of a lot of hours of belief and faith, and yeah, that was a good day.